Hello and welcome to Wealth Reset. I will say that probably for the last time because I know I'm about to change the name again, and it's okay, still us. So thank you for joining. If that's your first time, welcome. I'm Camille Babin, and today I want to talk to you about the next level of leadership. And some of us really feel like we're in a season of transition. There are new things happening. We don't have a word for it yet. It's not necessarily clear, but we just can sense it. So we're moving along. And at least for me, that's where I find myself. So that's why I'm like, oh, the name, I don't know if it's still well reset because I know it might not be, but it's okay. Um, there is a story that I would love for us to dive into today that will really explain a lot of where we'll be going and what we'll be doing. And it may not necessarily be a message for you, and it's okay. But if it is, I just hope and pray that it really blesses you. I pray that it opens, it gives clarity, and it really positions you right. So, we talk a lot about emotional intelligence. And as a mindset coach myself, I do understand the importance. I recognize the value of emotional intelligence. I know the need for self awareness and empathy, especially in the areas of leadership, self regulation, and all these different things. I do value those skills. I do value all of that really. And I've seen the progress, I've seen the impact, even with the people that I work with. I've seen it. It's very important. It's not something that we can neglect, that we can take for granted. But I also recognize that for where we're going, we need more than that. It's not enough. And although, yes, he has his place and he has his usefulness, we also have to recognize where we've been operating or what has been happening, I should say. So, yes, emotional intelligence is very important. And some people will even call it the success intelligence, right? It's really a critical skill or a set of skills that people need to master, especially when they are called to lead others. So I know all my purpose driven people, are very aware of it and very fond of it and work actively to develop, the really reach the next level, if we can say it like that, of emotional intelligence. But what I've noticed and what I've realized is, um, again, with the change that is happening, it's not just a change. It's not necessarily because it's something now. It's just now more than ever, we have to be more intentional about how we lead and how we live our lives. And why I'm saying that emotional intelligence is not all, because I've seen too many leaders fall into that trap. They do more. They, really cross all their T's and dot all of their I's, and yet they still feel the void. They still experience, that longing. They still have the question that still lingering, and they ask, why does this not feel enough? Right? That it still doesn't feel like it's enough. I still don't feel fulfilled. There is like a void. There is a part of me that is empty, right? They can't really explain. It feels like a hole sometimes in your chest. And you're like, I'm doing that. And some of them feel like maybe it's that next project, right? That will just do it for me. Maybe it's that, maybe I need this new building, or I need this new idea to be implemented, or whatever the case may be. We just find the next thing and the next thing and the new thing. And in spite of all of that, we still are not fulfilled. We still don't have that peace that we're longing for. We still don't have what we thought was going to make us whole and to make us feel complete. So, what I want to focus on today is, let's move beyond EQ. Let's move beyond emotional intelligence, and let's talk about spiritual intelligence. Some people describe spiritual intelligence as the ability to lead with compassion, with love, while maintaining inner and outer peace and harmony with yourself and with others. And all that is great. It is great, but I think it doesn't capture the entirety. And I'm not saying that I have, the full definition, but I know this one is not complete, because spiritual intelligence is also the ability to access mysteries, to access the realm of the invisible, what is unsaid, what is unseen, what is unknown, and also being able to give language to those things that men cannot describe, to those things that your reasoning, human logic, and even human imagination cannot fully comprehend or describe. It's those things that, some people, call them spooky or whatever, but I don't want you to feel like it's anything spooky or anything mysterious or anything so deep that you cannot reach. But we also have to understand that we've reached a level, we reach a point in life where how long can we go with that feeling of restlessness? How long can we go with that feeling of, not being whole, or not being uh, um, we know there is something missing, right? We feel like there is some part of us that is incomplete, and it might be, but let me tell you why it is. It's not necessarily like incomplete in the sense of, you don't have it, or it's like a part missing in you that maybe we need to order parts, not like that. But it's more because what we do, a lot of us really say that we want to operate, like to the maximum of our potential. We want to really live to the full of our capabilities, our capacity. But what happened is we just try to stuff those two areas like more and more and more when it comes to the body and to the soul, and we neglect the spirit. So no matter what you do, if you all we do is just stuffing the first level and the second level, and we forget or we neglect the third aspect, which is our spirit, we will always feel that void. We will always feel like incomplete. We will always feel empty, or some part of us will feel like, unfulfilled and dissatisfied. And that's what's happening with a lot of leaders, because they develop, they master everything about their thought process and their belief, and they as far as the mindset is concerned, they have it all together, mastered all the emotions. They know how to be in control, know how to command the room, know how to recognize some of the things that are happening within your team and within your organization. You are excellent at what you do, but still there is still that part of you that is like, but there is more though. There is more. And you go after that and you're looking like, where can I find it? Where can I find it? It's within yourself. It's not something that is exterior to you. It's not something that is external. It's not something that is foreign, really. It's just that you haven't taken the time to connect with it. You haven't taken the time to explore it. So spiritual intelligence, in essence, is just for you now to move beyond the body, understanding that there is more than what we see, right? There is a reality beyond the physical. There is a reality, just beyond, just my imagination and my mindset. There is just that realm of the spirit that I need to access, and not just access like temporarily, but really sit there, dwell there, like truly. That's where we should operate from. And I know sometimes some of us, we just kind of, it's like a room that we just go quick in, we grab something and we come right back out. But that's not it. Spiritual intelligence now is the ability to recognize that this is my seat. This is my place. This is where I'm called to operate from. This is not, like my body looking, to now master all my emotions and my feelings and my thoughts. And yes, work against those destructive patterns and limiting belief and all of that, overcoming rejection and fear and you name it, and then go right back, or maybe just kind of pick something from the spirit realm and then we just come right back out. What if it was time for us to now invert the roles and just know that actually I need to put my chair now in that room and really lead from there, from the spirit down to now this reality? I know maybe what I'm saying now doesn't fully make sense for you, but how about I give you one or two stories? Let's go for two stories. They're short, and I will just, tell you the stories. I'm not going to read them to you, just the part that really matters, so that at least we get, like the right way, the way it was. I don't want to just, batch the stories, but it will be really important for you to just hear it and see what you're seeing, and, like really get clarity on what I'm saying. There is a story in Second Kings chapter 6, of the prophet Elisha. So the first story is about Elisha is a prophet. He was a prophet, like I would say, it was it, right? If we can call someone the goat of those days, that was him. At that time, he was the goat. When you talk about the prophet of the days, the prophet of that season, he was the one. He was, the one. So Elisha, there was a group of prophets, and they went and they were going to build something. So they were, going to, they needed some logs, so they went, and some one of them had an axe. So as he was just, I guess, cutting through the wood or whatever, the axe fell into the river. And, of course, you imagine the panic. Oh my God, I lost, my axe. But the problem was, it wasn't just because he lost his axe, it's because the axe didn't even belong to him in the first place. So that was a borrowed axe. So, that's like panic on top of panic. But what happened, the prophet just asked him, show me the place where the axe fell. And the man was able to locate, and he said basically right there. And what the man of God, what the prophet did, Elisha, he cut a stick, he took a stick, and he threw it in the water right where the axe fell. And immediately the axe floated to the surface. And he told the other guy, the other prophet, he said, just reach out and grab it. And that's what he did. Okay, maybe some of you that are more, science focused than I am, might find a logical explanation, like maybe you can really explain that, you can give all the details. I don't. Science is not my thing. So I don't know if there's any logical explanation to how that works. I don't. So maybe if that story for you is like, that's not really, like, it's nothing extraordinary about it. How about let's go to the second story right after that. So now we have two kings, basically, who are enemies. They're fighting against one another. You have the king of Israel and you have the king of Aram. And Elisha is a prophet on the Israel side, okay? So every time that the king of Aram is planning something with these officers, they, are, let's say they are in the meeting room, the war rooms, right? Devising their plans of attack and so forth and so on. Every time Elisha hears of it and tells and informs the king of Israel, so they are always able, to just avoid the attack. They always, come out stronger. So now at some point, the king of Aram really wonder, and he's asking like, hey, who's the traitor among us? Like, he's kind of suspecting now his officials, like there must be someone among us that is a traitor, because how is it that every time we plan to do something against them, they are, like ahead of us, right? They don't fall into the trap, basically. How is it? And there is one among them that says, hey, that's where I want to read. One of the officers says, it's not us, my lord the king. One of the officers replied, Elisha, the prophet in Israel, tells the king of Israel, even the words you speak in the privacy of your bedroom. Let me say it again. So the officer in the enemy's camp now is telling the king, it's not us, we are not traitors. But even the words that you speak when you are in your bedroom, that man over there, the prophet, was not even in your town, he's not even close to you right here, but he can hear it. He knows about it. Ask me how. Ask me how. So that's one level. Think about now when I say spiritual intelligence, that's one aspect of it. How can you be in your room? How can you be in another space and hear what someone is speaking to his officials? That's the power of spiritual intelligence. What if you could lead that way? It's not about your competition. It's not about having, although it's useful, right? It's not about, just being on top or doing those things. It's just understanding that we are living. It's not even money on the table. It's more than that. But there is just that much that we are leaving on the table only because we refuse to access, to elevate ourselves to that reality, to that dimension. Not all of us will have that kind of maybe insight, right? You may say, I'm not called to be a prophet. That's okay. You don't have to be a prophet. But there is still an aspect of the spirit that you must develop, like that understanding, that ability to to know those things, to have that discernment, to perceive things, like I said, that are not necessarily known to the average person, things that are relevant and pertaining to you, to your industry. What if you had that competitive edge? What if you had that unfair advantage? Because let me tell you, you do. You do. And that is why I'm so passionate about, this topic. When we talk about spiritual intelligence, it's not about being spooky. It's not about being religious. It's just about understanding that those things that men cannot have an explanation for, those things that men cannot describe, that we don't have language for, guess what? This word right here does. It does. Can explain. That's why we are called not to lean on our own understanding, but to trust, to acknowledge the Lord, because He's the one that provide all these answers. You know what happened even further with that story? Because you think the king is just going to leave it like that, like, oh yeah, right, this man knows everything about our plans and I'm just going to let him leave. No, he set out to go, like to find out who this man is. Let me know about him. So when he went, he was really, going. What happened? He really sent his army, like really to surround the city where the prophet Elisha was. So you know what happened? Elisha, a servant, was afraid. As I mean, all of us will be, right? Like, hey, my master, these are people, they're coming. Look at all the chariots. They all army, they're sending their whole army is coming against us. And he was panicking. And you know what Elisha told him? Let me I think in the when I'm reading from the New Living, is not really given, and I want to go to the New King James, if I can pull that up. So basically now Elisha is answering to his servant, and he said, don't be afraid, for there are more on our sides than on theirs. How is it that is two of you in a room, and you tell your servant, don't be afraid? There is this whole, an entire army. He said, a great army with many chariots and horses. And you said they are more on our side than on theirs. Then Elisha prayed, and that's the prayer he prayed. He said, Lord, I pray, open his eyes that he may see. Then the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. I don't want to, I don't even want, I can't even, just share right now what I'm feeling in my spirit. But that's really that's the place that we are called to live and to operate from. That's where God wants us to be. That's what He has made available to us. If only we can tap into it, if only we can understand and wrap our mind around it, and not just live at that level where there is still something missing. We do all of that, all the things that we know to do. We train well, we speak well, we act well, we show up strong, and all of that. And yet we are still breaking inside. Why? Because our spirit is starving, because our spirit longs for those type of things, to access the deeper reality, to access those mysteries, to really operate from that level where we get that intel, we get that insight, we have that discernment, that perspective, all of that. And now we, instead of just giving ourselves permission to operate from that place, what we do, we just want to bring it into the level where we are comfortable, where our emotions are tickled, right? Where it's all about our feelings and dominate our mind. And yes, I'm all for be emotionally intelligent. Please, we need it. But after you do that, know that there is more, and seek to now transcend into that place. Seek now to elevate yourself into that space where, like what happened right there with Elijah. Not only so many layers, Elisha had the relationship so strong, so deep. He was so connected to God that he could ask him. Not only him himself could see what the servant couldn't see. He had the confidence to say, don't worry, don't be afraid. There are so many more around. How was he aware of his surrounding like that? He will see things that are not visible. And not only that, it wasn't just for him. He was able to pray for his servant, for his eyes to be open. And what I want to tell you today is, what I'm asking you to do and to step really and to develop and to grow a little bit more in what we call spiritual intelligence is not just for you. It's because once you develop that intimacy, once you develop that relationship with God, now you are able to help others. Now you are able to also invite others into that reality. You are also able to invite them to step beyond that realm where, they live in fear, where they live like, feeling the threat and only seeing the obstacles and seeing the resistance and seeing what doesn't work, instead of being focused on the things that are being made available for them. Because that's really what it's about. The spiritual intelligence that I'm talking about is not for you, to just annihilate your competition. That's not the goal. It's not for you to dominate over other people, but it's for you now to really take charge and access everything that is for you. All that has been made available, all the provision that has been made available for you to fulfill your assignment, for you to succeed in the role that you have been entrusted with. That's really what it's about. And we can't do it when all we do is just, like mastering our emotions and, yes, addressing the self-destructive pattern. That's important. But again, that's not all. There is so much more. And again, I don't want, to just go on a rant here. But you know what happened? After Elisha, prayed for his servant's eyes to open, he also prayed and he asked the Lord and he says, strike these people, I pray, with blindness. And he struck them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. So when I'm saying right now that we need to really reach our next level of leadership, next level is just so that we are not afraid by the threat of this world. That we are not, there is no setback. I'm not talking about the challenges, the normal, like a challenge and opposition that will happen. I'm not talking about that, because all that is doing is just building capacity. It's just developing you even more. I'm not talking about that, because that will always be. We cannot, circumvent it. We cannot go around it. We can't change that. However, there is a power that we have yet to access. And we cannot access it when we live at those two levels, in those two dimensions alone. If we are afraid to now really fully access the things of the spirit and live there and position ourselves permanently there, we're missing out, and we always feel like we are leading from the outside in instead of leading from the inside out. Right? We will always feel like we are leading fractured instead of leading whole. And that's where I want us to be. That's what I want us to capture. That's what I want us to understand today. When I'm talking about spiritual intelligence, it's not just for us to have goosebumps and feel like, oh, I can see what they don't see. It's not about that. It's having new understanding. It's having, new perspective. It's having, like a our senses, to just be more active, and not just our physical senses, not just, our natural senses, but really things that, again, it's like when you close your eyes and you can see even clearly, more clearly than with your eyes open. That's the dimension that I want us to go into. And I know that it's not that I want you to go there. It's because I know that we designed for that space. We were made from that space. We were born, to operate from that space. It's from that space, that connection with the spirit, that we are able to influence the rest of the world, the rest, really have dominion here on earth. And if we are not able to see that and to understand, then everything we look with our natural eyes. You see, like the king of Aram, that's what he was doing, because all he was looking for was the trader among them. But on the other side, they knew they didn't need a physical presence. They knew all they needed was just a connection with the divine. Because it's like, if God is for us, who can be against us? He will reveal the plan. He revealed because he knows it all. We don't know all, but God knows it all. So anyway, I think my message today is clear, or at least I hope it's clear. And my prayer for you who are listening, watching, is that I pray that the eyes of your understanding will be enlightened. That's my prayer. Let our eyes be open. And when I'm talking about our eyes, I'm not talking about these things here. I'm talking about the eyes of our spirit. There is a crying out right now of our soul, or of our spirit, because Even our soul recognize that there is more, and that's why we feel broken inside. That's why we feel like, oh my God, I know I'm doing all of that, I'm receiving all the compliments and the accolades and the awards and the applause and the recognition, I'm getting all of that, but still I feel empty. Still I feel like there is something missing. Why? Because there is something missing, and that can only be filled when you move over now to the spiritual reality, to the spiritual realm, and you don't look at it like from a religious standpoint, you don't look at it from even a scientific standpoint, where it has to make sense, but you can really approach it like, with tools in your tool box that you haven't even used yet. Because a lot of us, to be honest, have not accessed yet, the power that has been made available to us. So that's my prayer when I talk about the eyes of your spirit be enlightened. That's the power that has been made available to you and I. So I pray that we just tap into it, that we understand. So anyway, we'll talk more about it for the coming weeks. We'll just go deeper and see, really like understand where we are positioned, how to be more effective, how to even like, find I want to break that down in a way that doesn't sound so spooky and so mysterious. Really, that's my heart. And like I'm really excited about this season. I'm really excited. So if that episode, this message today, really bring clarity, or maybe bring something, even if it just, pique your curiosity, that's okay. And you might want, to share that with someone and say, hey, listen, there is this thing that I heard today, and I think it will be great. Just feel free to share. Share and send us like even a question, a comment, whatever. If there's something specific that you like, oh, I need understanding on that, I need clarity. If it's something that I have the ability to explain, I will. If not, how about we join together in prayer and find out, right? But anyway, I'll be back next week by God's grace, and we'll really dive deeper into it. So until then, make sure that you ask now, how can I do, to access this thing? And it's the key. The answer is right in this book, and it is the word of God. So God bless you, and I will see you next time.